My guest this morning is Dr. Ashely Alker. She is the author of 99 Ways to Die and How to Avoid Them. Doctor, good morning and welcome. I have a suggestion for you should you decide to do a volume two of this book, or if you decide to add a revision. As I was researching for our conversation, I found an interview that you did with Kelly and Mark. But before that interview played on YouTube came a commercial, and the commercial was for a robotic lawnmower. And I'm thinking, what could possibly go wrong there?
So many things. Yeah. I think a lot of people ask me when come on to talk about my book about stupid ways to die and dumb ways to die. And Lord knows there's a lot of them, but this book isn't really full of those types of ways to die. This book is full of ways to die that are, 99, obviously, and avoidable, but they're things that you actually need to know the science and the medicine and the history in order to avoid. So, everyone knows that they shouldn't throw a frozen turkey into a vat of hot oil. It still happens, unfortunately. I see them in the emergency department every Thanksgiving. But, the point being is that these are things that you probably don't know about.
There are some amazing stories in the book. One of my favorite involves a barn and a guy who's attacked, and the attacker ultimately ends up in the emergency room as well. And you lean into him, and he says, I think I did too many drugs.
Yes. And we treat everybody the same in the emergency department. It doesn't matter who you are, if you have insurance, where you come from. It doesn't, if you're the attacker or the police officer or you know, somebody that gets hurt in the process, everybody gets treated the same. So everybody gets the same treatment, which is a great equalizer and a wonderful way to practice medicine. But it also lends to a very interesting group of people in the emergency department. So you might have, one person in a bed that was involved in a car accident. Well, the person that hit them is in the next bed. So it's a weird place.
That story, in fact, probably could have come from an episode of Breaking Bad. I know that you've done consulting for a number of TV shows and movies, and my wife and I have gotten hooked on the TV show The Pit. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or not, but the big doctor words, as you refer to it in your book, that they use on that show just start spinning around and around and around, and we had to put subtitles on just so we could understand some of what was going on in there.
So medicine is its own language, right? Like French, Spanish, it really is a different language. And because of that, what physicians need to remember, or anyone in healthcare, is that we have to translate those words into something that's approachable and often engaging in order for our patients to understand, learn, and kind of absorb what we're telling them. And, the pit does what it does purposefully because it's, looking to be realistic as possible. And they do a great job. I did not work on that show, unfortunately. But the physicians that work on that show, are doing a great job making sure that things are accurate. That being said, the way that the book is written is a little bit different. I try to approach it from an angle of being your translator, your guide. I've called it an Anthony Bourdain style tour of death. And the point is to be engaging and to be approachable and to be something that you can pick up and put down and learn from. And if enough people read this book, someone's life will be saved by it.
I believe you said in one previous interview that you did, you kind of wrote it for the TikTok generation, and that the chapters come in short bursts. And I noticed that you are on a number of different social media platforms. Facebook is not one of them, but you're on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it, which to me, and I'm on it, to me is a complete cesspool of misinformation and conspiracy theories.
Yeah, so I mean, medical influencers and misinformation do make an appearance in the book as well. And I talk about the issues with these people and the fact that they're all trying to sell you something, and sometimes it's not as obvious because it's not a pill or a device. Sometimes they're just selling you themselves, and just watching the information perpetuates it and also earns people money these days. And so sometimes your attention is the product that that they're attaining. And so that's the problem, is that people will create lies and things that are absolutely insane just to get you to click on things. And when it's medical misinformation instead of being makeup or clothing, it takes lives, and it has. We've seen that. We saw that during the pandemic. And That is one reason I'm on social media, which I'm not a huge fan of social media. I don't really like it, but there needs to be good information out there. And so, the doctors, the health professionals that are getting on there in order to fight misinformation, I think it's really important. But it's hard to be engaging. It's hard to be more engaging than like, kangaroo urine, cures cancer. The lies that you can make up are crazy, right? And people click on that stuff. So sometimes the truth is boring, and that's something that we have to overcome. And that's what I tried to do in this book is make it something interesting and engaging by telling you the history and the sociology and the science in a way that you can understand it. And hopefully I did a good job.
Some of the book is very timely, as a matter of fact, because you talk about measles and the vaccinations for that. And speaking of misinformation, there is a ton of it out there. And if you're a parent of a young child, like, where do you go? Like, what do you do? Because it's coming at you from all different sides.
Yeah. So the important thing is to not be getting your medical information online. You need to have a physician that you can trust, that's a primary care doctor or a pediatrician that you can talk to about this stuff, because every parent deserves to ask questions and to understand and to be, there's always been informed consent with this stuff. Nobody does anything without informed consent. But it's more than that. It's more than, there's different levels of being informed. So having somebody that you can really understand and relate to on a personal level, especially when it comes to your child's healthcare, is really important. And I wrote this book, over the past 5 years, but I've always been very passionate about vaccine preventable diseases because my work in other countries, I've worked in Tanzania and Cyprus and Honduras and France and Spain and Morocco in healthcare and public health. And my work in all these countries, I saw a lot of the diseases in this book that the US really hasn't had to fight against, because of things like really high vaccine levels for some time. But now, unfortunately, these things are coming back, and it's because of seated distrust in vaccines, mostly based on lies, mostly based on things like correlations and not science, not causation. Most doctors, they've done, look at the people who know and see what they're doing, and then, use that in your decision making. So the people that are in medicine, almost all of them are vaccinated. So, if you look at the people who, if they weren't and they were trying to sell you vaccines, then I would be a little bit, be careful with that. But the fact that, they've done studies on this, and it's something like 98% of primary care physicians are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, and get their yearly vaccines. So if the people who know are doing it, the people that have the education and we have trained and trusted in our society with, our healthcare, if they're doing it, it's probably a good idea. But you can still ask questions, you can still be curious, and you can still need to know these things, especially when making decisions for your children. So you should talk to your primary care about it. And if you're interested in the background of these diseases, what they do, why we vaccinate against them, that's all in the book. So there's very specific reasons we chose to make vaccines for these diseases. And if you look at the numbers, JAMA did an article on this. 156 million people have been saved worldwide by vaccines in the last 50 years. That's 6 people a minute. And 101 million of those are infants, children. And those are the people that we're protecting with our vaccines. So I think it's time for America to educate itself and then also develop some empathy, because these are something that is very important for our society to have success.
You also have chock full of pop culture references in the book, including my favorite quote from Spider-Man. With great power
Yes.
comes great responsibility. And there are wonderful stories in the book. 99 Ways to Die and How to Avoid Them from board certified death escapologist, Dr. Ashely Alker. Thank you so much for your time this morning and congratulations on the book.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.